Well, it is lovely to see you this morning, and as I say, if you're watching online as well, to have you with us. We are starting, as Natalie said in the announcements, was starting a new series this morning on the book of Ecclesiastes. It's in the Old Testament, it's wisdom literature, and if you want to follow along, you can, and you don't have a Bible, you can borrow one of the church Bibles on the sills, up on the windowsills. Go and grab one of those. And you'll find Ecclesiastes in these Bibles on page 670. Comes after the Psalms, and then Proverbs, and then Ecclesiastes. So we're going to read the first 11 verses of the first chapter of Ecclesiastes this morning. Ecclesiastes 1, verses 1 to 11. The words of the teacher, son of David, king of Jerusalem. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. The title of our series is Living Life Backwards, and as we look at the book of Ecclesiastes in these coming weeks, we'll be looking at the end in mind. What Ecclesiastes does is it teaches us to look at death in the face so that we can live life well and live life to the full. So we're going to live life backwards. But Ecclesiastes can be a puzzling book. You don't find the opening verses on too many of those kind of Christian calendars or posters. As far as I'm aware, Natalie has not yet been commissioned to paint these words for someone to hang in their hallway. Meaningless, meaningless, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. When we studied Revelation, we talked about the importance of realizing what kind of literature we were reading, that it was important to put on the right glasses, to look through the right lenses, to understand what we were reading. We were reading in Revelation apocalyptic literature, which paints very vivid images and broad brushstrokes, and we talked about the importance of reading it in the right way. And the same applies as we come to the book of Ecclesiastes. It's not apocalyptic literature, it's wisdom literature. And it has a certain style, a certain way of reading that we need to understand as we look at it in these coming weeks. Zach Eswin is a pastor in the States, and he's written a book on Ecclesiastes. And he said many Christians have grown up traveling the prophetic roads of the Old Testament and the Pauline highways of the New Testament. Wisdom highways are less traveled. Perhaps some of these passages in Scripture we haven't looked at that much. Now, the narrator at the start of our book in Hebrew is called the Qoheleth, but he's called here the teacher, or in your version of the Bible, it might be the preacher. Tim Keller, who was preaching on Ecclesiastes, said he is more like a philosophy professor, this teacher, a teacher of philosophy. We read in verse 1 the words of the teacher, son of David, king of Jerusalem. And so we're looking here at Solomon, either Solomon himself or someone who's taking up Solomon's names and Solomon's wisdom, but the Solomonic kind of wisdom of looking at life and the meaning of life. And unlike in many books of the Bible, which are preaching, this book is teaching and philosophizing and asking questions. At least 10% of this book, I think it's 12%, is asking questions. It's a book of questions that doesn't always straight away give the answers. Ecclesiastes is like what's been called a Socratic dialogue. Socrates taught by asking questions. That's how he taught. He asked questions of his pupils. And what the writer of Ecclesiastes does to make us think and to make us look at our lives is to ask us questions upon questions. It reminded me when I was reading it and thinking about this questioning approach to Ecclesiastes, it reminded me of an episode of Frasier that I saw recently. Frasier's a sitcom that we like to watch. And in this particular episode, for reasons I'm not going to get into now, the family, Frasier's family and father, were pretending that they were Jewish. They had to do this for a reason, a plot reason. But Martin, who was the father, Frasier's father, said, "I don't know how to be Jewish." To which Niles, his son, says, "Just answer a question with a question." So Martin, like what? Niles, what? I have to explain everything? Martin, well, can't you give me an example? Niles, what? I should give you an example? Martin, you going to help me or not? Niles, you're saying I'm not being helpful? And that's what Ecclesiastes does. It asks questions upon questions upon questions. And it makes us look at our lives. And many of those questions don't have direct answers. They just trouble us and prod us and prick the bubble of our pretense. Now, the aim of this book and the aim of this teaching is not to depress us. It's not nihilistic, life is nothing and life is meaningless and everything is meaningless and there's no point. That's not what this book does. The aim is to teach us to number our days aright, to realize the brevity of our life, and to find joy in life, to live life in view of death, but to live life in view of eternity as well. And so the opening question is the guiding question of the book. In verse 3, what do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? What do people gain? What is the profit? This word gain comes up a lot. It means profit. It means leftover. It's asking the question, what is left that is of permanent value at the end of your life? You're very busy. You work hard. What is your life for? What is your life accomplishing? What difference are you making? What do people gain? What do people profit? What's left at the end of the ledger of our lives? What will I accomplish with my life? What is all this for? And if we go back to the opening poem of the book, we find these words: meaningless, meaningless, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Now, the Hebrew word here is Hebel, Hebel. And it occurs 38 times in Ecclesiastes. Hebel. Now, some translations of the Bible and the translators of the Bible wrestled with this term and what it means. Some people have translated it vanity, vanity. Everything is vanity, meaningless, futile. It can mean all of these things. Pointless. Metaphorically, Hebel means a vapor. Like if you expose or put out a candle and you get that little puff of smoke or a spray of an aerosol, it's like Hebel. It's a vapor. It's here and then it's gone. One other translator translates it enigmatic, enigma, because Hebel comes very close to the word wind and lines up with what is written throughout Ecclesiastes, that much of what we're trying to do here is like chasing after the wind. We know the wind is there, we know it's real, but can we get a hold of it? We can't. And that is what life is like sometimes. It's enigmatic. It's an enigma. It's a mystery wrapped in a mystery. And we don't always understand it. What is it all about? Why are we here? What am I doing what I'm doing for? Hebel, Hebel, everything is Hebel. One of the translations of Hebel is a vapor, a cloud, a puff of smoke. And that translation is found in Psalm 39, verses 4 to 6. The word Hebel appears 3 times in that psalm. Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is, Hebel. You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is as nothing to you. Everything is but a breath, Hebel, even those who seem secure. Surely everyone goes around like a mere phantom, Hebel. In vain they rush about heaping up wealth without knowing whose it will finally be. The psalmist is saying, what Ecclesiastes is saying is that life is but a breath. It's here today and gone tomorrow. It's like a vapor. It's like a phantom. It's like chasing after the wind. And the older you get, of course, the faster life seems to go. It's a mystery. And so we have this little speech that I make every Christmas as I go up to the loft and I bring down the Christmas tree and I bring down the decorations and I say, I can't believe it's Christmas again. I just put these away. And every year it seems to go faster and faster and faster as time flies. Joan Collins said in reflection, not on reflection, but Proverbs 31, before we get to Joan, the theologian, Proverbs 31, verse 30 says, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. Hebel, it's gone before you know it. John Collins said, the problem with beauty is that it's like being born rich and then becoming poor. And so the teacher, our philosophy professor, if you like, as he's asking about the meaning of life, and as he examines it, and as we will examine it over these coming weeks, debunks some of the answers straight away in this first passage. He debunks and shoots down the humanist answer. Humanism says it's all on us. It's human endeavor. It's human legacy. We make the world a better place in our own strength. Humanism argues without God. It's all on humankind to progress and to make progress and to improve our lives and to leave a legacy for our children. And the teacher debunks that we think we're here to make a big difference. We're here to leave a big legacy, to make the world a better place. Michael Jackson sang about it. Think about the generations and say we want to make it a better place for our children and our children's children so that they know it's a better world for them. Heal the world. Make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. But then the teacher says in verse 4, generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. And then he cycles round after giving all these examples from nature of the wind and the rivers and the sun and the movement of it and the cyclical nature of life. And he cycles back in verse 11 and he says, no one remembers the former generations. And even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. In Les Miserables, the musical, the young students take to the barricades in the French Revolution and they are about to face their death, looking down the muzzle of a gun, and they begin to sing in the musical. They begin to ask the question, will the world remember you when you fall? Could it be your death means nothing at all? Is your life just one more lie? Now, of course, in our lifetime, we will never forget those that we have loved and lost. Of course we won't. And we may even remember a previous generation. But within a generation or two, no one will remember us. Generations come and generations go. Pastor David Beresford is retired now. 3 times he's retired. And so we've named, like New York, we've named an office after him upstairs. You can see the Beresford office. But give it a generation or two, and people would say, who was this Beresford? When I go, I said, I want a plaque. I want the Loos named after me. I want the Lee Loos. I want a plaque so that... But give it a generation or two, people will be having a wee and saying, who was this Lee? Generations come and generations go, and the teacher is answering the humanist argument that we are significant and we make a difference and we're here to make the world a better place. We're here for progress. And David Gibson argues 100 years after your death, the chances are no one will know that you ever lived. But he also answers when he's asking about the meaning of it all, the meaning of life under the sun. He also answers the hedonistic argument, not just the humanistic argument that we're here to make a difference and we're so important. And then he kind of debunks that. He says, you'll soon be forgotten. Your life will soon be forgotten. But also the hedonistic argument that life is about pursuing pleasure and about just eat and drink and be merry and have a good time. And again, I was out walking the dog this morning down by the Barbican early and saw the beer glasses all over the floor and the broken glass and the fag ends and the detritus of last night's celebrations and drinking. But the hedonistic approach that we live for pleasure, to find pleasure and happiness in life, simply enjoy the pleasures of the day. That's the way a lot of people live and don't think too much about the meaning of life. But what the writer and the teacher of Ecclesiastes says in verses 8 and 9 is all things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. It's never enough, this pursuit of pleasure. It is like a chasing after the wind. It's never enough. We're never satisfied when we pursue pleasure in that way. Our eyes are never satisfied. Our ears are never satisfied. Our tastes are never satisfied. There's the law of diminishing returns. And he says it becomes wearisome. And he tries it, and he will write about it in his life and his pursuit of pleasure. The thing that Ecclesiastes is going to do is it's going to put life under the microscope, and it's going to blow away some of our myths of the way that we're living life and about what life is really, really about. And David Gibson writes about this. He says that the reality is we spend our lives trying to escape the constraints of our created condition. Opening our eyes to this is a significant breakthrough. We are not God. We are not in control. We will not live forever. We will die. But we avoid the reality by playing let's pretend. Let's pretend that if we get the promotion, or we see the church grow, or we bring up good children, we'll feel significant and leave a legacy. Let's pretend that if we change jobs or emigrate to the sun, we won't experience the humdrum tedium and ordinariness of life. Let's pretend that if we move to a new house, we'll be happier and never want to move again. Let's pretend we can break this cycle of repetition and finally live in a world free of weariness. As Zach Eswin says, we're a soul-starved people. We're scavenging for emotional and rational leftovers, searching for a reason, a purpose, a point for it all, attempting finally to arrive. We want our lives to count. And then, of course, the teacher gives these examples of nature that even though the streams flow into the sea is never full. It's never full. Even though the sun rises, it goes down again, and then it comes up again, and it goes down again. And this kind of the cycle of life, this repetitive nature of life. And he gives these examples in verses 4 to 10. But remember that the preacher's aim is showing us that at the end of the day, human beings gain nothing from all their toil under the sun. What do we gain? What profit is left to us for all of our work under the sun. Now, this phrase, under the sun, is important in this context. It comes up a lot in Ecclesiastes, 29 times. Under the sun, everything is meaningless under the sun. Under the sun is not heaven. Under the sun is not Eden and the creation that was before the fall of mankind. It is not centered on God. It is centered on the earth. It's centered on our life on the earth. It is making the assumption that many people make, that there is nothing here but nature. Life under the sun is all there is. And in that, the teacher is saying life is meaningless. It's futile. It's empty. It's but a breath, if that is all there is. And what Ecclesiastes is going to do for us, it's going to show us life without God and life without this sense of meaning under the sun, the chasing after novelty, the chasing after the new, the repetitive nature of life, the brevity of life. It's going to open our eyes to that, and it's going to prod us and provoke us and ask questions of us to make us think what our life is really about, what we're really giving our life to. And what Scripture does is Scripture progressively reveals the salvation plan of God, the purposes of God, the reason for our lives. And Ecclesiastes will leave us in some ways hanging with some questions, but the answers are found throughout Scripture. And if we go to John chapter 1, verses 1 to 14, we read the words that in the beginning was the Logos. And the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. In the beginning, it's translated in many of our Bibles as in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Greek philosophers of Jesus' day and before were looking for the Logos of life. They were looking for the reason, for the purpose, for the meaning of life. They argued over it. They philosophized over it. And some argued for wisdom, some argued for power. There were many different ways. Some argued for hedonism, Epicureanism. What is the Logos? What's the reason? What's the purpose? What's the meaning of life? What is the design behind it all? And Jesus came amidst tremendous skepticism and despair, not that different to the world in which we live today. And John says, as he opens his gospel, he says there is a Logos to life. It's not a theorem. It's not an abstract idea or reason. It's not a philosophy. The reason, the purpose, the logic behind the universe is a person. When you find him and when you know him, you will find the meaning and the reason of life. The Logos is a person. In the beginning was the Logos. And the Logos was with God. And the Logos was God. And you can know him personally. And you can enter into a relationship with him. And you were made for this. He is the one who in Revelation 21 sits and says and pronounces, "Look, I am making all things new." There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new. We're living in this fallen world. We're living in Genesis 4 and beyond. We're living with the strains of this world, the groaning of this world, as Romans describes it. The world wasn't always like this. It wasn't meant to be like this. It is under the curse. It is groaning. It is awaiting a new heavens and a new earth. We're living in a world that feels fleeting. It feels insubstantial. It feels unfair. It feels like a vapor, like something we can't quite get a hold of. And I think some of the reasons that we get so frustrated with politicians is that they keep coming and promising us change. They keep coming and promising us something new. They keep coming and promising us nirvana. Things will get better if you vote for us. And we realize in this cycle of life that we seem sometimes to be in this doom loop, this groaning of creation, this frustration, the futility of it. But when we begin to live the way that God made us to live, with the end in mind, the day when God will come again, Jesus will come again, when he will make all things new. There will be, we are told, a new heavens and a new earth, a new Eden. We will be restored to the place of paradise, to walking and living with God as we were meant to live and walk. Ecclesiastes will teach us to live life with the end in mind. To realize that this life on this earth is extremely short. And when we strip God out of it, it is meaningless. Everything under the sun, even though we may chase hedonism or we may chase humanism, we may try and find a meaning to our lives, without God, we are, to quote the Bible, to quote Paul, we are without God, without hope in this world. Ecclesiastes will cause us to face our death so that we can live life well. It won't allow us to bury our heads in the sand. It won't allow us to just keep living lives of quiet distraction or desperation, bored and pursuing the next novel thing. It will prick our bubble of pretense. It will rid us of our worst humanistic and hedonistic tendencies. And it will lead us back to living life with God and then living life to the full. Because that's what Jesus said, didn't he? I've come to give you life. I've come to give you life in all of its fullness. So there is a reason, there is a purpose, there is a logos. There is a light and a life, and that is Jesus. And he will ultimately make all things straight and all things new. And as C.S. Lewis reminds us, in the last battle, all their life in this world and all their adventures had only been the cover and the title page. Now at last they were beginning chapter 1 of the great story, which no one on earth had read, which goes on forever, in which every chapter is better than the one before. In a few moments, we're going to come around the Lord's table, and what we are doing there has in it eschatological tension. We are looking forward to the return of Christ. When Jesus instituted this sacrament, when he said, "Do this in remembrance of me," he said, "Do this in remembrance of me until I come again," until the end. We look back and we remember Jesus' death, and we give thanks for it and its cleansing power in our lives. We realize that in this life and in the futility of this life, we are still looking forward, groaning, anticipating, waiting for that second coming of Jesus. This life on earth is really just the cover page. There is so much more to come. I'm going to invite the communion team, please, to come forward and to prepare the Lord's table for us.